All right, we are live. Volume's good. Welcome back, everybody. Man Cave Sports here with the special Hungry Like the Wolves edition, Timberwolves recap of Game 5 of the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Minnesota Timberwolves victorious over the Los Angeles Lakers. I think it was 103-96, I believe, off the top of my head, and close out that series in 5. The mantra from the talking heads and everybody else, the Shannon Sharps of the world, was Lakers in 5. And unfortunately for the Lake show, the opposite came true. No surprise to this group here. I think each of us, Mr. Naughton was on the fence a little with his pick. So it's.
They win the first one
You,
in
you
six.
did, but that's not really a prediction. But anyways, we'll give it to you. We'll give it to you because we love you.
I appreciate that.
But I think this group, for the most part, liked the matchup. I know, Brian, you were a little bit concerned about it, and rightfully so. I mean, it's LeBron.
Well, hey,
it's Luka.
I gotta put it back on that tinfoil hat, man. The
Yeah.
NBA can be a racket, so I was worried about them foul calls.
Yeah, so let's talk about last night's game because it was somewhat of a tale of two halves. Timberwolves came back strong in the second half. They are strong in the first half, had a nice, comfortable lead, gave it up as the second half transpired, and even gave the Lakers a brief lead, but then closed the show at the end. I'm gonna go to you, Mr. Steve, first, and let's talk about the performance of the game because we've been waiting the whole series to see something like this, and it finally happened. So talk about Rudy, because I mean, oh my God.
Yeah, Mr. Rudy Gobert showed up in a massive way. I mean, really hadn't been utilized a whole lot during this series, and he was contributing some rebounds and his defense, not much on offense. So I mean, as much as everybody is trying to ooh and ah over Luka and versus Rudy actually did a good job against him and against LeBron. He had that nice block against LeBron. I think it was game 3. I forget which one, but so Luka, or excuse me, but Rudy was only doing, really defense and rebounding, and it was solid, but it wasn't this. This was dominance. This was so good that even Shaq had to come out on the show and give him his colors, give him his propers, give him his flowers, whatever you want to call it. Shaq had to eat it. And they even said, I think it was Ernie said that, hey, Shaq, he's playing just like you. It was impressive. He owned the paint. The Lakers had no answer for it. He was getting, and he could have had more, if he just slammed it as much as we complain about it. If he would have slammed a couple more and his free throw shooting was better than 60%, but he was dominant. He was dominant. It was the game we needed on a night in which we were horrible from three, like sub 20% from three, just terrible. We needed this, and Rudy stepped up in a massive way. And so I'm glad to see it. Ant called him the dragon. When we saw that he got 24 boards, Ant's like, man, he's a dragon. It was. And so props to Rudy coming up big tonight. They said they were going to run him off the court. The only person that got run off the court was Jackson Hayes, the other center for LA, who got 0 minutes last night because he's such an offensive liability. So kudos to Rudy. On to hopefully the Warriors.
Yeah, and we'll do a. Well, I'll bring up a question, everybody, at the end here too. But I did notice it seemed like with Finney Smith starting instead of Hayes, the plan was to get Rudy involved early, which I think he got on the board right away. In fact, I think he had like 9 of our first 11 points or something of that nature. I mean, he came out like gangbusters, and I found it interesting that they put what's his name again, Maxi
Kleba.
Yeah, put him in. He's never even played with that team. He was part of the trade, and I mean that's how desperate they got. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but JJ Redick stormed off of the podium in the pregame interviews or whatever, the media session, because he didn't like the questions. And then I think even the staunchest Laker fans had to be questioning some of his antics, his calls, some of the things he said in the post game too. So I mean, the Lakers are a hot mess right now. But as Wolves fans, we love to see it. Razor, We
Yes.
talked about Rudy's performance. Let's talk about Ants, because if you would have told me he was going to have the game that he did, and let's be honest, he's out there hustling, getting rebounds, assists, playing defense, but shooting wise, he was god awful last night. Which, hey, if anybody is forgiven by this fan base for having a bad game in the playoffs of all places, it's Ant. I mean, because Ant's been steady. He dominated the first 4 games, even the game, that they lost. I won't say he dominated, but he played very well in comparison to last night. So talk about Ant's performance.
Well, much to your guys' chagrin, I was very, very hard on Ant last night. I was blowing up your guys' phones with texts about his horrific shooting. I think especially at the beginning of the third quarter, he had Luca, who is a terrible defender already, but had the back injury, and Ant just settled for shots. And it wasn't like he checked time because he'd been missing badly before that. As you mentioned, he shot terribly, 5 of 19 overall, 0 for 11 from three, and wasn't finishing at the hoop as well. And I would argue first half, I didn't think his defense was very good. I thought he kind of was a step slow. I thought he was just kind of not focused. And I actually was worried that this was a complacent Wolves performance that we've grown accustomed to. Nas didn't seem locked in. Jaden didn't seem locked in. Ant didn't seem locked in. I mean, the Wolves, that challenge, their coaching staff didn't seem locked in. That challenge was awful.
Yeah.
Hey,
But here we go. This is where I turn the tables. Look at Ant's all-around game, though. He had 8 assists, 0 turnovers. Wow. And he made that play to Mike Conley, Old Man River, hadn't been shooting well either. And Mike Conley basically hit the game icing 3 off the assist from Ant. So credit to him. He also had 11 rebounds. Huge, huge performance in that regard. And I ripped on his defense in the first half, but he was kind of forced to take the challenge on of guarding Luca because Jaden McDaniels was in foul trouble. And I think some of the other players weren't playing well. And he stepped up to the challenge and made Luca work for everything. And Luca just looked completely gassed by the end of the game. So the Wolves, as they've been doing throughout this whole series, one of the things we were most concerned about is how do they finish games? They killed it in the fourth quarter once again. Kudos to Ant for, despite having a subpar shooting game, he managed that game well, and he played winning basketball in other ways. So kudos to him. And sorry about all those texts in which I was complaining about him.
That's all right. I was taking like 20-minute breaks from the text chain just so I could concentrate on the game. I even missed Mr. Steve's apology last night. I didn't catch that till today. Luckily, we got it up though. But so, we've talked about Jules throughout the series. He was consistent. He was steady night after night, defensively even. Jaden had a bit of an off game compared to what he's been doing prior in the series. But you just touched on this, Razor, and this is a question for you, Brian. Talk about some of the other guys last night and their contributions. Mike Conley. He only had 8 points, but he had that clutch shot and was a +7. Nikhil had 10 points. And, Rudy was +18. But yeah, talk about Bite's performance as well as Na, and just how much, it didn't show up big on this stat line. And Nas is, again, he's been hit or miss. He'll have a real good game and then he'll kind of go silent. Been good closing the games, but he had an off night as well. But talk about the importance of what Nikhil and Mike brought last night, Brian.
well, I love it. I mean, that shot, just like my esteemed colleague Razor said, that shot basically iced it. And I mean, all of us were wah! At that time. You brought up Bite. You brought up Nah. I'm going to steal a line from my other colleague, Mr. Steve. I'm going to say, be naughty's badass motherfucker of the game, Dante DiVincenzo. And that's one guy you didn't bring up. He kind of seems like the glue guy. He's the guy that's always in people's ears. He's always calm until he doesn't have to be calm. I mean, I saw a couple great open field tackles at midcourt by him. If I'm going to crown anybody that's not like a starter, that's the guy I got to give it to. And it's amazing how the trades worked out. When we brought up Jules has been just absolutely physical, which he has to be in this game. And but my guy, Dante. I think that's
Yeah.
the
Well,
drink.
I'll say this, he's making the hustle plays out there. He's
He just ain't
got a
hitting the
defense, but I didn't realize it till now, probably because I had ants 0 for 11 in my head.
yes.
Dante was 2 of 12 from downtown. So I mean, let's be honest, we have yet to see the offensive game from Dante that we know he's capable of. And
Go
hopefully that happens in the next series. So with that, because I'll ask each one question. I do want to make sure we wrap up the Wilder on right now, and I know at least 3 of us want to watch it. I think though we're getting Ramon kind of
Razor's gonna
I'm starting to care.
yeah. I mean,
I'm becoming a convert.
there we go. But anyways, Steve, talk a little bit about the Lakers and what they're going to have to do now. Not that we care; they're not our team, but I mean, what's that franchise have to do? Because they got a decision. I believe Luka's up for an extension now. LeBron said he's coming back. I guess I heard today. But Reeves had a rough series. I mean, I don't know what they have for capital or draft any tradable assets there. I mean, Rui Hachimura had a pretty good series, I thought, or at least a couple of good games there. So talk about the Lakers' future.
Yeah, I think the big thing for the Lakers is obviously they need effective bigs. At least one good effective big, and they need somebody else to handle the ball. I don't think that having Luca stand in the corner on defense and then dribble the ball up, because he's going to stand around and do whatever he's going to do is going to win it for him. So they need a ball. They need somebody who can dribble and play some better defense. So they need a point. They need a true point guard, and they need a true big. They need a true big, or at least two serviceable ones, right? That they can get them rotated in, because having Luca and LeBron on Rudy was just you saw what happened, right? 27 points, 24 boards, didn't matter. Vando couldn't help out. They tried Cleaver. They didn't even bother with Hayes because he'd been a complete no-show the rest of the series. So I think that's the big thing for them is they got to figure out what to do with Luca. I don't think they're going to let Luca walk. I think they'll put in some clauses for chunkiness when it comes to him being able to get some of his money. I think there's going to be some workout bonuses or something like that in his contract. But with LeBron, he's going to be 41. Anything can happen. We saw Dame Lillard just try to go get a loose ball and his Achilles popped, right? So Lakers are going to have to get a true point guard, and they got to get a serviceable big. And then Luka's got to cut back on the burgers and the hookahs and a little more treadmill time. And then Hachimura and Reeves. Hachimura was probably their best player, outside of the Luka and LeBron. But yeah, they need a point guard and they need a big, and then I think they're going to be. I think they'll be tough to play again next year.
All right, Razor, Nico Harrison has been grilled, and rightfully so, because I would say this at the very least, no matter how this trade turns out, and you can never make a judgment until you give it some time and see how things go. I mean, we were all dead set against the cat trade, and I mean, now at the end of the season, you look at the dust settling and stuff. I think it ended up being a win-win for both teams. But do you think that this lends a little credibility to Nico Harrison for dealing Luka?
No, I don't think so. I
I think
really
he could have
don't.
gotten more.
Yeah, I think I mean, he's probably a massive closet Wolves fan right now. He must have been jumping for joy, maybe not quite as much as we were, but darn close to it last night. I guess it feeds some fuel to his side of things, but I think the whole thing is that Luka is going to make the Lakers relevant for the next 10 years or 8 years.
Yep.
That it wasn't necessarily, I think they thought they were going to do better this year. And I mean, considering how poorly they'd been and that they made this big change, I mean, they still got the third seed. And I mean, what if the Wolves go really far here? I mean, it could make their loss or early loss look even better. But it wasn't necessarily about this year for the Lakers. It's for the next 5 to 8, I would say. But like you said, Mike, they didn't even, from what all reports are, Nico didn't even really do his due diligence in the trade. He didn't ask around. He didn't demand first round picks. And that's really where I think the fault is. And then, we talk about the conditioning of Luka Doncic, but look at the guys he was relying on. Anthony Davis might keep himself in great shape. He is a great basketball player, but the dude is brittle, and it happened again to him almost immediately when he joined that team. Kyrie Irving has had a history of being hurt a lot too, and then the off the court issues as well. Who knows when those could rear their ugly head once again. So I still think Nico made a massive mistake. A lot of it is because he didn't get as much as he could have gotten, especially if you look at the other deals that have been made in the league, like Mikal Bridges. I mean, what did they get for him? Five
Five.
draft picks.
Yeah.
I mean, he's I like him a lot, but he's not even close to Luca. And Luca struggled defensively for sure, but he's still a special player, and he's one of the few in the NBA that makes other guys better. So again, I'm so happy about what the Wolves did, but and Nico has a little more fuel on his side now, but I still think that was a massive mistake on his part.
Thanks, Ramon. Yeah, just for you guys is just an update. Detroit is up 61-59 over the Knicks right now at half. I've got that on in front of me. Wild are starting up here again. So, Brian, I will ask you this though, real quick. Tim Conley obviously took a lot of heat for the trade for Rudy Gobert a couple of years back. Took some heat for the Cat trade. I mean, how vindicated is he? And don't get me wrong. I mean, hopefully the Wolves continue this run, et cetera. But how are those trades looking now when they were very scrutinized when he made them?
Well, that Rudy trade came out of nowhere. Like it's just like poof, it was there, and then all those picks, and then giving up the Beezer and like all the guys we gave up in that.
Vando, who was excellent this series.
Oh God, he's at the best place he could be right now. And
Honestly, I enjoyed his performance last night. I don't know if he did anything but come in there and just start hacking away on people. But sorry.
Right. Razor and I were talking. I don't know if it was on the hotline or on one of these. That all he is Pat Beverly now. I mean, there's anything that made him good when he was with us. Yeah, I just loved him being on that team. But the Rudy trade came out of nowhere, and he got heat for 3 years about that, and he does kind of seem vindicated about it because Rudy helps win games. Rudy's a matchup problem, and then with the Cat trade, there is no way we were going to keep Nas. Maybe Nikhil with that luxury tax, especially with your cheap owners coming in, how they're going to snip out the payroll. So that had to be done. We all know it. But getting that Pistons pick this year, getting Dante, Jules, hey, I listened to him on Barrero today. He just called in when he got off the airplane. And man, he seemed like he was in a pretty good mood. He's feeling pretty good about himself, and I don't blame him.
As he should be. All right, gentlemen, because the Wild game has started real quickly, because we'll save a lot of this content for the preview show. Who do you want? Obviously, we're waiting on tomorrow night, Houston and Golden State. Golden State is currently up 3-2. Last night's game was a frickin' doozy, too, that we all watched before the Wolves game. Anyway, Steve, who do you want to face in the next round for the Timberwolves?
I want Golden State. No question asked. I want to put down Draymond. I want Rudy to have a night like he had last night, beat the dragon all over Draymond's face. I want to take down Steph. Steph is a cool guy, nice dude, but Houston's really the only team left in the West that really I'm worried about. OKC could go either way, long series, but I want the Golden State Warriors. I do not want Houston. I don't want to play Sengun.
Razor.
I like both matchups for the Timberwolves, but I want Golden State, like Mr. Steve. It's vindication tour. It's the revenge tour. We talked about Draymond, the chokehold he had on Rudy. Want to get vindication on that. The Wolves could have drafted Steph Curry. We know what happened there.
Twice.
Jimmy Butler, yeah, twice. Jimmy Butler went nuclear, scorched earth on the Timberwolves franchise. He has since done that to the Miami Heat, and he just seems to always land in a good spot. And I would love to see the Timberwolves take them down. Beside all that, I do think the Wolves match up well with them. I think the Wolves are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster, and
Younger.
and younger and just more athletic. And I think, we talked a lot about complacency for the Wolves. That's something that I constantly talk about and I constantly fear. I think that the Golden State Warriors, because of all these side stories and the fact that they are a dynasty that's kind of still fighting to stay at the top, the Wolves are going to be completely locked in. And I think normally, you kind of want the easier one. I want the Warriors. I think the Wolves are ready. It's the Wolves' time, and they're ready to take out the Golden State Warriors.
Brian.
Absolutely. I can't believe I'm agreeing with all you idiots, but yes, I want them bad. I want them very bad. And it's kind of like the Joel Embiid. He never plays in Denver for like 7 years. Jimmy hasn't played here in almost as long. I think that would give us a boost. Having home court, it was something you guys haven't mentioned, and just having just the rain of piss coming down on Jimmy buckets. Even though I'm a buckets guy. But hopefully he doesn't thrive off of that. But of course, that's what I want.
All right, yeah, and I'll close by saying I want all that smoke, and maybe before this first round of the playoffs, being a Minnesota sports fan, you're looking for the path of least resistance or the easy way, et cetera, because we're conditioned that way. I mean, is there more of a snake bitten sports town than us? I mean, I know Detroit's had some problems, Cleveland over the years, but for fuck's sake, can we win a championship here? We haven't tasted one since 91. I was in freaking high school, and high school is so long ago in my life. So I want that. And here's one of the reasons why I want that. Anthony Edwards, because you know what? He wants that. And he wants them all. He is collecting heads, as you can see on Man Cave Sports social media today. He's got a nice collection in his den, and we want to add Steph to it. Obviously, buckets, you could throw him up there, but I mean, he's not quite the legend that Steph is. So I mean, Anthony Edwards at 23 years old is collecting playoff series victories over legends, and the drama that would come with playing Golden State. We're here for it, man. We're here for it. And it'll get them prepared should they move on and have to face OKC, maybe Denver again. That's the funny thing. Everybody writes off Denver. Denver's still dangerous, man. Jamal Murray for 43. Come on. But anyways, we'll get back to the Wild game. We'll connect again here in a few days. We got to see if they play Monday or Tuesday, but either way, we will have a playoff series preview show. Timberwolves versus to be determined. Hopefully Golden State. And we'll talk more about that series, the matchups, and all the smoke that will come with it. So, gentlemen, I appreciate you, and we will get together soon. Go Wild. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right, guys. Well, later.
All right, I've had enough of you guys.
Yeah, go Wild. Take care, guys.
Mr. Steve, I like your earmuffs.
Thanks, buddy. So Mike left the room, but are we still live on YouTube or whatever right now? Because Mike left the room and we haven't shut down yet.
Wow.
I don't think so, but I don't know. So I doubt it.
Well, you want me to tell some jokes?
Hold on. No. Hang on a second. Yeah, we're still live.
Oh shit. Okay. Well,
Get
see you
out of
later,
here.
guys. Have a good one.
Everybody leave.